Hello, my name's John McIntyre from Moncton, New Brunswick. I'm here because of a scenario that I had back in 2009. We had quite a little flood situation here, which woke me up. I guess the best way I can describe it, it would be on a Saturday evening when I was laying down sleeping. I heard this tremendous amount of water coming down, which I thought was the roof into the gutters. Lo and behold, it wasn't, because it wasn't really raining that hard at the time. So I get out of bed and I come down over here to the top of the stairs and I look down and my whole rec room was flooded. It was a mess. It was a disaster as far as I'm concerned. It was chaos. We just didn't know what to do and what to think, or I didn't even know what I had for insurance, whether I had 5,000, 10,000 or full coverage. I was lucky. Here in the back room, I had 2 cabinets back there. I had 4 pieces of furniture, all leather sets. I had chairs, you name it, everything was floating. I'm pretty sure I ended up with 25.5 inches. Anything that got wet was pretty well claimed. My stove, they inspected it and cleaned it up and repainted it for me. The wall had to be knocked down completely in order to get to the gyprock in the back. They came in, brought a dumpster, put a big dumpster here in the yard. Everybody had a dumpster. I wasn't the only one. Around 72 people in this subdivision there was severely flooded. Whether it's 2 inches or 3 feet, it's still got to be fixed. The city of Moncton had come in. They came in and took a look at it, and they asked several questions. They ran a camera through. Everything was good except for there's one little low end there with a little bit of water, not much, but there's no debris in there, no roots, no nothing, no reason that they could pinpoint the cause and say this was your problem. I had a couple plumbers in there this morning there to take a look at my pit here and to check to see what I needed, what I should have, and they also had ran a camera through.
We're underwater.
Oh no. That's the thing, because there's nothing blocking it.
It's a slope issue.
Yeah.
How do you rectify that? Dig it up? How far out is it?
About 8 feet.
So I hadn't expected that part, knowing there that they've already ran a camera through there before and there was no problems whatsoever here a year and a half ago.
Right now, we've removed the clean out cover to gain access to the sewer pipe from the house to the road. As we noticed when the homeowner flushed, it basically is backing up. Water there too. So we're going to go down the storm line now. We can see water there as well. So it's going to be a little muddy here and dirty. Exactly the same situation as the sanitary line.
So right up in this corner, it looks like you have roots coming through.
Yeah?
So that would just be outside your wall where,
Yep.
where those trees are.
Okay.
Upon investigating with the camera from inside the house, we've obviously sent the camera down the storm and sanitary lines. We've established there has been a concern outside the house, approximately 2 to 3 feet to approximately 8 feet, where there's water laying in the pipe, which we don't want, of course. We want water to flow smoothly out. We've spoke to the homeowner about excavating the ground to expose the pipes. Once that is done, we'll have to establish the grade from the house to the street, because of course we want our grade properly. If that is okay, we can basically start installing the new backwater valve on both lines. Once everything's connected, we'll be installing 2 sump pumps.
My name is Mary Lou Tanner, and I live in Hamilton, Ontario, in the east end of the city. On July 26, 2009, my basement flooded. Hamilton had an intensive storm that had 132 millimeters of rain on the city and in my particular neighborhood in 2 hours. That's about 5 inches of rain. It caused 15 inches of water and sewage to back up into my basement. And just so you can understand the height of the water, it's about the height of this particular chest that's in the basement now. The entire basement was finished at the time, and it has been refinished. It had built-in cabinetry, furniture, television, 2 bedrooms, and all of it was damaged and destroyed in the flood. Any of the furniture that the sewagey water touched had to be disposed of. All of the built-in cabinetry had to be disposed of. The furnace had to be replaced, the washer and dryer, the hot water tank, and all of the drywall in the basement had to be cut to about 1 foot above the high water mark. Once that was done, a biological agent was put down to kill mold, and there were dryers and dehumidifiers in the basement for a week to dry everything out before any of the restoration could begin. Prior to any of the restoration work beginning in the house, there had to be significant plumbing upgrades done in the basement in order to protect it from future flooding. Unbeknownst to me, there is a drain outside of my house that was connected to the internal plumbing, and it drains my neighbor's driveway. When I had the sewer lines cameraed to see that they were actually intact and didn't need any work done on them, we discovered that this drain was connected to the plumbing. So the first thing we did was come up with a solution on how to manage that flow, because essentially the water was coming from my neighbor's driveway in the drain and then into the plumbing line that took my dishwasher, my sink, my toilets, my showers, my washing machine. That had to be disconnected. So what we did with that was we put in first this sump pump, which is the primary sump pit and pump that takes that rainwater. It collects it in this pit and then pumps it out to the garden on the other side of the house. To make sure that the really intensive storms didn't flood the basement again, a second sump pump and pit was put in here, and these two are connected underneath the tile floor by a 4-inch PVC pipe. So if there is an extra heavy rainstorm and the primary pump and pit can't handle the flow, it will flow into the second one and discharge outside of the house, keeping my basement fully protected. At the same time, in order to make sure that sewage water didn't back up into the house from the street in the event of another heavy rainstorm, a backwater valve was installed so that if flow does come back up from the street, the valve closes and it can't enter the house. This work was critical in order to be able to finish the basement the way I wanted to and to restore it to what it was prior to the flood. At the same time, the sump system also takes the water from the weeping tiles around the house, so any water that collects there will go through the sump system and it won't migrate into the house, either where the walls and the basement floor meet or from extra flow due to heavy rainstorms. I put a generator in to ensure that the sump pumps flow whenever it rains, whether there's power to the house or not, and it's a natural gas generator. There's 2 pipes here. The main pump is the longer one that you see, and it discharges in every rainstorm, and it clears the water away from the basement, and it takes the weeping tiles as well and discharges them to this side of the house. This area has been graded so that there's good fall away from the house, so any water that comes out of the sump pipe is going to flow into the yard and just sit there and then dissipate into the grass. Beyond that, I have disconnected the downspouts, and they do fall well away from the house as well. They actually end up watering the garden, but they do need to be far enough away from the house so that the water doesn't come back into the weeping tiles and go back through the sump pump. On this side of the house, there are 4 windows, and water tends to run very quickly towards the windows, so we put in some window wells, dug down to provide a surface to protect the window, and then put the plastic cover on top so that no driving rain could get into it. What I've learned from my experience is getting an investigation of your house's plumbing, the sewer lines, making sure that they are intact, don't have any cracks, is really, really important. Understand where your weeping tiles go, disconnect your downspouts, use a backwater valve, and if you need a sump pump, absolutely do it, because it will ultimately protect your house and give you peace of mind so you can sleep at night.
We encourage you to watch all of the videos in this series and to download our handbook for reducing the risk of basement flooding from our website at iclr.org. Being well informed is the first step to help you reduce the risk of basement flooding.